Hello and welcome to KSB TV. Today we have a fun talk with Money Gang Crypto about why you will get rich on PulseChain. There's so many things going on and we want to not delay it too much. So let's bring Money Gang Crypto up right now. How's it going, man?
What's up, man? What an intro. Great. Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Oh yeah, I just edited this intro yesterday. I want to make a little bit of awareness of what we are doing, the KSB TV team with the Hex birthday. I hope that everybody obviously now gets excited for those 3-day event that we have with Hex birthday, where we celebrate 100% uptime, 10,000x, 95% dips. We have everything in Hex, right?
100%, man. It's even more so now than before, right? Now we got Hedron, now we got ICOS, and now we got all the derivatives from the perpetuals, and the thing gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and the amount of projects that are going to be on PulseChain is unbelievable. It's exciting. It's definitely something that I'm looking forward to, even with these delays.
I feel like every single day I could go online and talk about something new in Hex, right? It's very, very detailed. You just talked about all the products that built on top of Hex. So yeah, that just makes it more and more exciting. But today we want to talk mainly about PulseChain and why PulseChain will go viral, why PulseChain maybe will change the whole ecosystem of crypto forever, right? And maybe we can start by talking what Richard Hart did with Hex. When he started Hex 3 years ago, unbelievable, it's been such a long time. Like he basically changed DeFi forever, right? We had to work hard against a lot of haters. They were saying, no, Hex is a scam because it just inflates by itself. It just prints money out of thin air and it cannot have value. Nobody had this idea before, right? That you can just have this amazing product that is distributed to the people that have really skin in the game, that stake. Before it was always, coin was created like Bitcoin, where money, like energy was used, and like it's an old philosophy. So that's where Richard Hart changed Hex the first time, right? Have you been in Hex the early days, or have you been coming in a little bit later when the inflation basically was already done?
Yeah, I came in later, and I came in. Yeah, like I like the principle of it. I like the idea behind it. I also one of the biggest things that puts me more towards it as well was the fact that you can earn some yield. You can earn some yield that's trustless. That's you and the contract. It's you and the code. And it's not like Celsius. It's not like other projects where they're using leverage to try and create some sort of return for their customers. And you're giving your keys away. You're giving your admin keys away. You're giving your crypto away to a third party, essentially, and you run the risk of getting wrecked. And that's exactly what's happened. We've seen this in this bear market, like so many projects that have been destroyed, so many centralized CeFi great projects have been destroyed. And unfortunately, that's been a terrible learning lesson that we've learned early from Richard and from the community.
And I think it's also amazing that with Hex, Richard Hart made a tool where people are taking their financial energy off the exchanges now because they want to stake, right? So this is a beautiful, beautiful tool. And then not only that, this changed the philosophy of crypto. Like, how is crypto be valued? Is it by people mining with energy, or is it actually by people holding to the coin, like we see it in Hex being with 6.5 years now being staked, right, in average? So then fast forward a couple of more months after Hex was released, like it was the next big move by Richard Hart by putting all the liquidity for Hex on a decentralized exchange, Uniswap. And this is where he changed crypto basically for the second time. He made Uniswap popular on his back. And I think that this shows what kind of innovator Richard Hart is.
It's amazing. And what's even more interesting as well in this bear market, you mentioned the length of time that people are locking up and staking their Hex. It's actually going up and up and up. And one of the things OX Steph recently just put about the staker app, and I got it written down actually as in my notes section. He was like 11 years is now the average staking duration on the staker app. Users that delay the gratification for the longest period of time, it's now an average of 11 years on staker app, which is like pretty insane that we're going up and up and up. I remember even maybe a year back, it was only 4 years approximately the average duration, and now it just keeps increasing. And I think that will happen. I think that will increase as time goes on, and that is a sentiment and a testament to the philosophies that Richard has brought forward towards his community, and the guys around it, what they believe. That delaying gratification is the best way to achieve results, to achieve something in the future. And like he said before, it has these alternative benefits, like people who wanted to self-delete themselves and have struggled through life, they've got something to live for in the future. People want to see what will happen with crypto in the next 5, 10, 15 years. And it's a very short period of time, actually. If we really digest it, and it was... I'm trying to give credit where credit's due, but I just remember hearing this on the stream, that 15 years is a very short period of time if you think of the grand scheme of your life, right? Like, science and technology is going to push us towards that 90 plus range for most average people. People are going to be working up into their 70s. The average retirement age is going to be way further in the future. So what is 15 years if you're, in your 20s, in your 30s, even in your 40s, and your retirement age is like in your 70s, maybe, who knows, maybe even further than that. So it's exciting. It's very interesting to see. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the future.
And a lot of people don't know that the average staking duration, yeah, it is going up, but we have to understand that it's a weighted average duration, right? When it is, let's say it was at the beginning 4 years, right? Then a lot of financial energy is needed at the end, like after 5 years, to make this number go up, right? And so we see that actually more and more money gets staked and more gets pushed out for longer. I think this is exactly what a coin needs to appreciate thousands of X in the future. So I'm really counting on Hex here, that Hex did 10,000 X in the past, and I think it can do that in the future as well. The question is just in what time frame. And then we will talk about PulseChain right now, and I think this is exactly the reason why Hex has the potential of another 10,000 X in the future, because now the infrastructure and everything is just laid out perfectly for people to move their financial energy in Hex and stake out like we did in the early days. So let's start from when Richard Hart saw, okay, my Hexicans, they are suffering. We have this amazing product Hex here, but they are suffering from the Ethereum gas fees. He saw that Ethereum started really sucking. It's not a good crypto project where you have to pay so much dollars for the single transaction. So he had to fork Ethereum, and we just got the information that now with the Ethereum merge, we are forking Ethereum 2.0. I think this is the right decision. Money Gang Crypto, what do you think about that decision to not fork the BSC anymore, but the Ethereum 2.0?
Yeah, I think when we heard about the bridge attack on Binance, I think it was 500 million that was extracted. You lose a lot of confidence on the Binance Smart Chain, which of course was originally where PulseChain was the code was being forked. Now with Ethereum 2.0, yeah, I'm a fan of it. I'm a little bit worried about the nodes, but it should be fine. I think that we're going to see a much. What's interesting me at the moment is how much quicker it will be, because we know that it will be about 5 times quicker than what we have now with Ethereum 2.0. But I'm interested to see how much more quicker, how much more throughput we can get out of it. So I'd love Richard to talk about it at some point. Obviously, he's keeping it under wraps for a while, but I would love to see how much quicker we can get. And Ethereum fees are not going away. It's going to be something. Tanto was on a stream and he was talking about the potential of the problems with very small stakes for 15 years. And if Ethereum don't get their act together, if the price of Ethereum is anywhere between $5,000 to 10,000, maybe more than that, a lot of people are predicting that Ethereum will go up to 15K in the next few years. That's going to be expensive on gas fees. Paying $100, $200, $300 that some people have paid in the last bull run. How much is it going to be when it's at 10 grand? How much are we looking at? 500, maybe $1,000 for just for gas. That's insane to me. So they do need to shard the network. They do need to do that in the future. But PulseChain is that alternative. PulseChain is needed. We need decentralized layer ones. We need decentralized exchanges as well. And I'm excited. I'm excited for all the projects that are coming forward. I think you have to be fairly bullish on it. Obviously, people are getting annoyed about the delays. Well, software takes time. Why are you worrying about it? What can you do to better help the ecosystem? What value can you bring? Maybe you want to learn code. Maybe you want to start creating projects yourself. Maybe you want to team up with people that can do that and start creating things that will benefit not only yourself, but the PulseChain ecosystem, the Hex ecosystem, and the derivatives around that. So I think people are more sitting at home. They're wasting too much time on Twitter. They're spending too much time in their basement worrying about the delays and stuff like that. Hey, it's going to come out. But the problem is, if you can't be patient enough to wait for it now, then how are you going to wait for it in 2, 3 to 4 years time when we do see those gains, right? With the gains that you'd like to make.
Exactly.
You're gonna sell at the first jump up, right? If it does 100x, you're gonna sell at 100x when it could go up to 1000x.
Exactly. So this is what we have in PulseChain, a problem that we do not have with Hex at all. Because in Hex, you buy your Hex, most likely you stake it then out as well for a long time, and then if it does 100x, well, it doesn't matter basically because you have it staked, right? But PulseChain goes up 100x, then people can get weak hands right away, and they can sell it on 100x, and then they can feel really, really great. But then on the next day, it goes up 10x more, and they will be out of the market, right? So yeah, but let's definitely talk about some of those fundamentals of PulseChain. I know that you have also posted a chart that went viral in the Hex community because it showcases how much potential there is in PulseChain. So let's start with that, and then we go into the game theory of PulseChain, why it's needed, and why it will make you rich in the future.
Yeah, so I did some kind of analysis of layer ones or popular layer ones. I'd seen a chart before, and there was some that I wanted to find out, like the most popular layer ones that I can know of. So obviously you've got Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, Avalanche, Polkadot, and Binance as well, BNB, and how they did from ICO. So from what we know as the kind of sacrifice price or ICO to the all-time high, and this is the result, guys. Like as you can see, Ethereum did a 15,000x, 15,500x to be specific. Solana did a 1,181x. ADA did 1,287x. Even Avalanche did 289x. Polkadot 189x. And bear in mind, some of these have been released before, and I haven't put the specific times when they first launched, when the ICO phase was, and when the all-time high was. So keep that in mind when you look at this chart, and Binance as well. Now, out of all of those layer ones, the only layer one that dipped to go to an all-time low that was less than the ICO price was Binance. But out of the six there, DOT, AVAX, ADA, Solana, and Ethereum, if you got in at the quote-unquote sacrifice price or the ICO price, you would have done better X's, better returns than if you were to buy it on the open market. Now, that's not to say that you can't buy on the open market and still make very good X's, good returns on your purchase. But I'm just to give you a heads up, if you bought in at the sacrifice price, and if you're thinking about selling it straight away, I would strongly ask you to think about not doing that. And the reason for that is because that's typically the best possible price or the lowest possible price that you've been able to get in. And as you can see, the average there is a 3.8 year, and it goes back to what we were saying a moment ago, 3.8 years average in order to see the all-time high, right? But that all-time high average around about just under 4,000x. And if you started with $1,000, that would have been $3.9 million in price appreciation. So this is the first slide. If we can go to the second slide as well. bring it across. And this is the one about not sacrificing for PulseChain. Go ahead.
Well, go back to the other chart again. My question was, I see always people comparing the ICO phase to the sacrifice phase, right? Do you think you can compare them? It's funny to me that Richard Hart basically re-termed this thing of where you put out the project where people pay for it, but it's not out yet, but later on it will be distributed like this. But was the ICO phase different back then? Because I was not part of that back then.
I believe with the ETH, it was a sacrifice phase. For each and every individual project, it was classified as an ICO. I think it comes from the traditional finance term for an initial stock offering. But yeah, I think the wording around the sacrifice phase was deliberate, right? For the Howey test and for, legislation, because legislation is always changing. So I think Richard had mentioned it as a sacrifice phase. I believe Ethereum also used the word sacrifice as well when they launched. So and I believe Binance did the same thing as well, if I recall. So it's one of those things. It's hard to get it right? It's very hard with legislation. I can't speak too much on legislation, but that's my knowledge of it.
But we see it every once in a while with the crypto project that gets sued by something, right? Then it has to present their reasons, and sometimes they have to pay a fine, but still they exist, right? And I think Richard Hart did really good by looking, okay, what is the baseline fundamental on the law here? And I think it's the Howey test, so he made sure to not violate the Howey test, and I think that was 100% the right approach. But anyways, let's go back to the chart. And what I also find interesting is that Binance was the one that dropped, but also it is the one that had the most access. And I think this is correlated, those two events. If you drop down to a low price, then obviously I think the lower to the all-time high, it's going to be a lot of access. So we may be looking into something like this in PulseChain as well, right? Because when PulseChain launches, I already see a lot of people, they're speculating on it, having it. Oh, no, my camera is falling.
No worries.
That really quick. Oh, I think I have to change my setup in the future here. But when PulseChain is coming out, I already hear some people speculating it doing 10x or something like this in the beginning, and then already people selling because they are not staked in PulseChain, right? They have paper hands, and like you're saying, it is not a good strategy to sell your crypto in the beginning. And I think a rule of thumb is to delay your gratification for 2 years. Then okay, you have a new cycle, right? One cycle, the new bull cycle maybe already went by this, and this is then maybe the time when you can think about how to go into other diversifications, right? But let's go on with your second chart, because I think that's really interesting as well for somebody who has not sacrificed, right?
Yeah, so if someone hasn't sacrificed, I mean, this gives you a bit of an idea of what happened with, again, the same protocols, same layer ones, and where they went. So for the all-time lows, and again, this is about time in the market. Okay, let's be specific here. Around about the 3 to 4 month mark was typically the all-time low for most of these projects, all right? And the time it took, as you can see, much shorter, 2.4 years to the all-time high. And then the average X return was around about 4,918 X, which the average, as you can see, is propped up a little bit more because of the Binance, what they did. Because if you did go from the all-time low to the all-time high on Binance Smart Chain, it would have been 17,597 X, which of course $1,000 in at that point, and then selling at the all-time high. And guys, I want to be a realist here as well. The probability of you selling at the absolute top and buying at the absolute bottom is very statistically low, right? But that doesn't mean that you wouldn't be able to get a good price on the way up and on the way down, right? It's one of those things. But
that's how it normally works, right? And this is how it normally works. Like you dollar cost average in, like I dollar cost average into Hex for 4 or 5 months every single day, right? This is not a good strategy today anymore, but it was for me back then. And now I lost my train of thought, but now I get it again. You said that statistically, it is really rare that somebody does 10,000x, and that's why I'm so proud that I can say I can I really did it. I did 10,000x. I can prove it if I wanted to. I have it on the blockchain that on the January 5th, on the lowest day of Hex, I bought Hex, I staked my Hex, and I also sold on like the very, very top on like this specific stake. And this is amazing. That's made more than 10,000x because I was staked. And I'm really, really proud of that because I'm really aware that only a few people are able to do something like this. And I'm happy with Hex. It worked out so amazingly. So let's dive into the chart again.
Well, this is it, right? There's a pure example of being able to do it. And actually that as a strategy, and one of the things I will say, we're in this place where a lot of people are buying up a lot of stuff right now in the bear market. But have you got funds ready to actually buy from day one onwards? You know, if we're saying that it's a 3-4 month period, or say on a weekly basis, right? Like if you're a DCA in on a weekly basis, well, you might be able to see that all-time low within the first 3 months, 4 months. Like from previous examples of layer ones, that's what's happened, right? The all-time low has been the 3-4 month mark. And if you were to do that strategy of buying in, maybe on a DCA in on a regular basis, like you did with Hex, hey, you could hit that all-time low, and you could be, you know, but be happy with how much you paid as well. So I think a lot of people may want to, and again, this is not financial advice, but this is just something that I've been thinking about, is when PulseChain launches, having that spare money ready to go, and then DCAing in at certain points and using the sacrifice price as the benchmark, right? So not going too far up. I've said this before on other streams. I've said that if Pulse does a 10x, right? So it goes from the sacrifice price, which was 0.0001 up to 0.001. Well, what's a 10x up into 1,000x? You know, what, you only got 990x if you bought at 10x. So there are going to be opportunities, and that's how I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh, if I can get in that price range, if I can get it lower than that, even if I can get it lower than the sacrifice price, which I don't think is going to happen, but if I can do that, that'd be great, you know, to get more pulse at those prices as well. And DCAing in early days into a project that's just launched is pretty good, especially when it dips down, especially when it's making those dips, because you might be quite likely to hit the all-time low or close to the all-time low. But coming back to, go on.
What we see here in the chart is like the average is 887 days or 2.4 years, right? And if we extrapolate that into the future, 2.4 years, what do you think where we would be with PulseChain, right? It looks like this bear market comes to an end eventually, right? How much longer can it take? I think like several months. But I don't know if it's going to be years. And 2.4 years, I think it's something that if you are in a crypto really, really new, like we are with PulseChain, it's not even out yet, you should wait at least those 2 years, like I did. I had the same experience with Hex, where I delayed my gratification for 2.5 years, where then I started having the lifestyle that I actually wanted to fund every month. So that's definitely something to consider here.
And people are gonna sell off. Maybe some people have overcommitted, and when you see all this FUD, when you see a lot of people on Twitter complaining and crying about it, you know, they're going to be the first people to sell, right? They're going to be the first people to say sell a 10, 50x, maybe even 100x. So don't be surprised if you see a lot of movement, but there are a lot of opportunities to be like a sniper, you know, and snipe your way in and get some decent prices. And look at this at the long term. You know, 2.4 years, that's what, like one crypto cycle, or less than like half a crypto cycle. If we say that a cycle bull to bear is what, like 4 years approximately on average. So what happens in the second crypto cycle, you know, when you go from a bear market to a bull market, hit the all-time high, and then it drops again into a bear market, and then you go again up into another bull cycle where it goes to even higher highs. You know, what's the price going to be then? How much patience have you got? And that's ultimately the most important thing. The thing we don't have with Hex, right? Like with Hex, you're locked in. So if you decide to emergency unstake, you're going to get penalized for it. You don't have that with PulseChain. And that's one of the factors that people don't play into. The volatility is going to be way more, I think, on PulseChain than it will be on Hex, because of the fact that people aren't locked up in stakes. There are going to be people that are going to be buying and selling all over the place.
I mean, when I talk to Hexicans, to all my friends, like I've been on tour, I've talked to thousands of Hexicans, probably too much, but probably like 1,000 of Hexicans I've talked to, right? Like something like this in this range, I would say. And everybody is staked, you know, and you will not find something like this in PulseChain where, yeah, maybe the people are staked, but it's not really locked for 6.5 years. So yeah, I totally agree here. I think PulseChain volatility will be higher, but that's also a really good catalyst, right? When the volatility is higher, then it means that wealth has been transferred from the impatient to the patient. And with the average being 2.4 years of all those forks or that we saw doing the all-time high, I think this shows me that you have 2.5 more years to basically dollar cost average in, right? This is how you play the long-term goal. You dollar cost average in, even if you have sacrificed, because you have like one problem. I'm having this problem at least. I sacrificed for both project PulseChain and PulseX, and when it does 10x, do I already want to sell a little bit? You know, gonna drop it then 90%? I don't think so. Like I always see the problem that if you sell, the price goes higher, and then you are out of the market, right? Then you have to buy in higher prices, and that's like basically you are wrecked.
Yeah. 100%. I just seen Red Squirrel as well put something in the chat. Put your pulse into liquid loans and never need to sell. If you know the liquid loan strategy that Red Squirrel's put out, it's very, very good. I'd recommend it to get more pulse as well. And that's the thing. I mean, this is what interests me as well, is like maybe one of the things that some people may be able to do is to avoid having to sell or putting the pressure of that, is putting it into places where that you can get a yield, like single-sided staking for PulseX, getting those coins and converting it into PulseX and buying more, and essentially you're DCAing in without actually having to DCA with dry powder, or you know, maybe you're working a job or working a 9 to 5 that you don't have to. You can do it from your own crypto itself. I think it's amazing what's happened with Hedron and Icosa and how that's been able to help the Hex ecosystem. And some people are using that. They're using it maybe for lifestyle costs, you know, selling off their Icosa, or maybe they're staking Icosa to get more Hedron, to then go buy more Hex. And you know, it's really fascinating. A lot of people could one day potentially live off yield. That to me is really interesting, that you could live off yield. And yeah, it's cards.
This is exactly what I'm doing right now. This was the Hex philosophy, right? You buy your Hex back, then you stake it, and whenever a stake comes due, you use your yield to fund your lifestyle, but you use your principal to stake it out and to preserve your T-shares. And now with the perpetuals being out, right, Maximus and all the other ones, with Hedron being out, now I moved on from just having to manage my Hex portfolio. Now I have to also manage like my Hedron, my Icosa portfolio, and I have to make strategies on all those different coins, right? And I just came to realize, seriously, a couple of weeks ago, that now I have a couple of smart contracts that I need to utilize with my financial energy in order to make this yield that then funds my lifestyle. Before it was only concentrated on Hex, right? And now it's actually diversing into these other derivatives, for example, or Hedron, and it's really interesting. Have you been able to auction some HSI stakes?
Yes, yeah. So I haven't actually bought any HSI stakes, although I've seen them and I've not purchased them. I was in on Poly, so I bought a lot of Poly. Obviously, there was a little bit of a letdown with the contract, so now it's become just a large Hedron staking pool. But I'm okay with that. You know, if it's a 15-year Hedron staking pool, Hedron, in a sense, is following what Hex is doing to an extent, and so if Hex performs well, then I'm sure Hedron will perform well as well, and then the amount of Icosa that's coming out from that as well. So I'm like, okay, I kind of have a little bit of a 15-year stake without having a 15-year stake. I'm also been buying up some of the perpetuals and making myself a staking ladder without actually having to make a staking ladder. There's a few reasons for that, because I've seen the price of certain perpetuals, whether that be base, trio, lucky, or desi, dropping below the price of what Hex is. So so when I see that my Hex, you can get bear in mind, guys, just to give some background here, if you wanted to get into perpetuals, it was 1 for 1. So it was 1 hex for 1 lucky or deci or base or whatever perpetual you chose. But when I can get more for my buck, as per se, I can put 1 hex in and I can get 1.2 base or 1.34 lucky, or deci, whatever it is, then I see it as a pretty cool arbitrage opportunity. So I've been doing that as well, keeping alerts on my phone. Obviously, they tie very closely to the price of hex, but it's one of the ways, because I'm not a massive whale in the system, right? I didn't get into hex early, and a lot of guys didn't get into hex early. Maybe they got into it in 2021, and so you weren't able to get the early prices. You weren't able to get the big payday benefits as well. And we know that gas fees can eat up a lot of gains, especially if you've done a smaller stake, right? So a lot of people would lean more towards the perpetuals just for the fact that they don't have to pay the gas, and they might be able to get more hex because there's more pooled hex in a DAO that's getting more yield. And that's something that I've been looking into. I've also been getting some team tokens just so I'm getting the Hedron, ICOSA, and more hex from those perpetuals as well. So yeah, playing the game a little bit. But it's creating a staking ladder without having to do it myself. Although I wouldn't say to anyone not to make staking ladders. If you want to make a staking ladder, maybe they do it in a 3-year, 5-year, 7-year, 10-year, etc.
Yeah, every single person is different, right? Like the old staking ladder still has a purpose, right? You make a staking ladder and then it is fixed. The smart contract controls this now. You cannot fuck it up. That's how I call it. Because I often realize in my life, like I do not have to do anything anymore. Those stakes are determined, right? They will work for me for the next 15 years, and I cannot sell them even if I wanted to. Obviously, if I want to get wrecked, I can do that. But anyways, you spoke about the perpetuals, and this is exactly a tool that I'm using to accumulate cheaper T-shares, right? You could buy Hex on the market and stake it, or you could buy just Decky that is in the discount right now, and I think it's like 14%, so it's a great deal for the T-share. But anyways, we want to talk more about PulseChain today, and talk about why PulseChain will make you rich in the future, right? That's really important because we have so many new people in crypto watching our shows right now, and I want to make them understand how high can PulseChain go, how will everything work out, and why is it that like we will be rich in the future, right? So I always want to bring it back to the why, and this brings us back to Richard Hart. With Richard Hart, we have somebody who innovates crypto over and over and over again, and he will do it now again with PulseChain, obviously. So what is something of the product market fit that PulseChain has, and that the crypto market really needs? And I think we come back to gas fees when it comes to this topic, because in the next bull market, Ethereum will have high gas fees again, and then PulseChain is a solution. And then boom, the biggest value proposition of PulseChain in my mind for crypto is that your coins are already there. You have Chainlink, you have Ethereum, you have any other ERC20 coin. It is on the PulseChain. You can start trading when the bull market goes on right away. You don't have to do anything, right? What do you think is the most important product market fit for PulseChain?
That's a good question. There are so many, when you talk about the benefits of PulseChain, and lots of people have talked about it, right? Like it being deflationary from day one. Gas fees is a big one as well. I think also the fact that Ethereum, the node's becoming more centralized as well. A lot more regulation, legislation over that. We've seen in this bear market that centralized finance hasn't worked, and we want really true great DeFi. That's what we've been wanting, and this is everything that Rich has been preaching for a long period of time. He's been talking on his soapbox about having contracts that you interact with, and that you're not giving away to someone else. I really think that the projects on PulseChain are going to make PulseChain, and also the fact that the gas fees are going to be so much cheaper. And it just takes one little community from the other side to come across and want to play on it, and take a Shiba Inu or something like that, a meme token come across, and boom, you might see some crazy adoption. So I'm interested to see what happens with that. I'm interested to see which community comes across first. But we have a massive community already, right? We have hundreds of, if you were to add up all the Telegram chats, hundreds of thousands of people who are ready for PulseChain. I put a post on my Twitter the other day, and it's kind of blown up. And all I put was what was it? Let me just quickly jump on my Twitter. Sorry, 2 seconds, guys.
Oh, don't worry.
It was, I basically put, here we go.
This gives us a second to look into the chat here. Patrice from Paris, Red Squirrel, thanks for being here. Crypto Rella as well. Red Squirrel here as well. So thanks, guys, for being here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And let's keep on the show. Do you want to change the screen share or?
Yeah, so well, I can. Yeah, let's do that. Let's just bring it up so that you guys can see. So let's just talk about the engagement already for PulseChain, right? Like people.
Because it's totally different than in the beginning of Hex. I remember in the beginning of Hex, there were like a couple of people watching a YouTube stream, right? Now it's hundreds of people. We have 110,000 stakers. The environment is totally changed with PulseChain. Everybody is excited about networks, right, coming in, and it's not about single people anymore. So really excited. Should I bring up the screen share?
Yeah, do it. So it was just a tweet that I put out. It was who's about ready for PulseChain launch. That's the tweet I put. You got 41 comments, you got 10 retweets, 267 likes. But here's the one for me, right? The impressions. And bear in mind, guys, this was on November 23rd, so it was literally just yesterday, and we got 13,618 impressions. Now, to give you some context, I only have 1,000 and something followers on Twitter. I'm nowhere near a Twitter influencer, a crypto influencer, but 10,000 plus in a day. People engaging with it. 267 likes. There is a lot of momentum when it comes to talking about PulseChain. The minute you start mentioning PulseChain, people want to know about it. People want to talk about it. People want to give their opinion about it, which to me signifies that there are going to be huge amounts of people, right? There are going to be huge amounts of people that want to get involved with this. I'm getting questions in my DMs about PulseChain. When's the airdrop? When's it happening? So people are engaged, whether they're talking negatively or positively. All news is good, is news, and it's all beneficial, whether that's negative or positive, in my opinion, because it's getting 100%. Eyes onto it.
And the marketing that the Hexicans are doing is just insane. And I think the Hexicans have realized really early on that with all the gatekeeping that they have to do it. If somebody wants to know about Hex, it's only because of the community telling them, right? It's not because they find it on an exchange. So that's why it's so vital to have community in crypto. And like you said, with PulseChain, we have it right away. And this is just so amazing. A lot of people were hating on Hex. This hating on Hex is going away. And also on top now, we get this new idea that now you don't have to be a Hexican anymore to participate in Richard Heart ecosystem, and now I can just buy PulseChain. And we have talked about what Richard Heart has done in the past for crypto, right? And now with PulseChain coming out, he will innovate crypto again. And let's talk a little bit about what is the reason why everybody get rich? And I always bring it back to this one point. We are having cutting-edge technology here. Richard Heart himself says he cannot believe that he is the first one to do all that, right? The vertical integration where you have the store of value, where you have a network, where you have a most liquid exchange, and everything deflationary, right? So a lot of things are coming together here. And I think that's exactly the reason why people will realize that in like the next couple of months, once it's out, oh man, that's the cutting edge technology. That's the next 10,000x project. And that's why I think the people will jump in the future. And once the people start the hype, once the people buy into this new idea, this new philosophy of crypto, I think then we can see a hype and really, really high prices. So this leads then to the next question. With PulseChain, we have also PulseX coming out, right? Have you had more time to think about PulseX and the gains that we could make on this product?
I love it, man. When I think about the transitions from how PancakeSwap have done, how Uniswap have done as well, I'm very, very positive about what will happen with PulseChain, and they'll probably have PulseX. Excuse me, they'll have a big monopoly in the PulseChain ecosystem. That's that's probably one of the most significant parts, right? Like every single coin, every single transaction, there's the buy and burn on it. It's deflationary from the start as well. It's basically the place where you go to transact. It's the place where you go from one coin to another coin. And then on top of that, just the amount of liquidity pools that are going to be there. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the LP farming as well. I see some comments as well. I see a couple of negative comments. Enough talk. I want my money back now. Had enough of Richard's crap. Hey man, you can sell it on day one. I'll buy your bags, Andretti. So no problem, man. But yeah, I'm excited. You know, I know K4K is really into PulseX, and I think it has a lot of rocket fuel, especially with the buy and burn. I mean, people have talked about this over and over and over again, but I really do think, not just because of the buy and burn and what it does, but now that we have so many new projects coming onto PulseChain. The last time I checked, it was over 100 projects that are going to be on it, and every day there seems to be a brand new project that are going to come on PulseChain. I don't know. I was just talking to KD from I've forgotten the name now. Yes, yeah. So I spent some time talking to him, and you know, new projects are literally coming out every day, which will then also affect the price appreciation of PulseX, because obviously the buy and burn, when you transact from one token to another token, you're a part of the buy and burn. You're helping to utilize that. So I'm excited. I'm excited for it. I think that early on, people are going to have opportunities to buy more PulseX. And there's going to be a lot of opportunities from day one to buy both. And it's just deciding how much of which do you buy at first. You know, how much of your dry powder, how much do you take to buy either Pulse or PulseX? That's going to be the hard part.
Exactly. Like I'm, for example, I sacrifice for both, for PulseChain and PulseX, and I'm pretty much equal when it comes to how much I sacrifice. So I feel like I'm in a good position. But when you just look at the bare numbers here, how many people sacrifice for PulseChain, how many for PulseX, how much dollars, for example, then you see that there's a uneven, right? More people sacrifice for PulseX and less for PulseChain, and it seems like more and more people get aware of what is going on right now. Because if you looked at Richard's Twitter following, for example, it just blew off in the last couple of weeks by thousands of people, right? And this is just one little indicator. My point is that what do you think will go and outperform each other in, like, when PulseChain launches? Because I think the layer one narrative for PulseChain is really high, right? People understand what a layer one is. They maybe don't even have understood what decentralized exchanges, right? So they don't maybe are even that interested in PulseX. So I think the layer one narrative is what will drive the PulseChain price, and also with the idea of people have mostly PulseX and maybe want to use your PulseX to put it into PulseChain because they don't have as much. So what do you think? How will it play out once it started? Let's say in the first 2 days, you know, where we only have a ratio trading maybe, and then the next couple of months.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that narrative. I know some people have said that the PulseX buy and burn will be crazy because so many people might be selling it off or trading it across to Pulse, and therefore it will be like rocket fuel to launch it. But in my opinion, I think that we don't see the mad effects of buy and burn until years down the line, maybe 1-2 years. And the reason for that is because the narrative of a layer one is so much stronger than a DEX. And even if you want to go and do research on DEXs before, DEX is a relatively new concept. If you think about Uniswap, PancakeSwap, other DEXs, it's still relatively new, and it's still, we haven't seen the kind of price performances that we've seen with layer ones. So people are not necessarily believing in it straight away because they've not seen as crazy price performance as they have seen on layer ones. And it's easier to get your head around a layer one than there is a DEX. But I think once we start to really make some momentum with Pulse and other projects on PulseChain, because I don't think not just Pulse and PulseX will do well. I think there are going to be many projects that will do well. You think of the guys like Liquid Loans, you think of maybe even Power City, you think about the Fiat.io. You've got loads and loads of different projects that could be successful. and those will also contribute to the overarching buy and burn and the overarching money swelling in what I call the Richard Hart ecosystem and moving into PulseX as well. So I think that will see that accumulative buy and burn in the future, probably down the 2 to 3 year mark.
2 to 3 years. Obviously, this can play out like this, but I think it's going to be a little bit earlier where the market's going to realize what PulseX is, and PulseX should then start outperforming PulseChain like in months. This is what I'm thinking, not years, but actually months. But the problem obviously with market is that the market can be longer irrational than you can be rational, right? Even if you have a better product, it will not outperform, right? Because what will outperform will whatever the market buys. So it's going to be really interesting to see.
I always go super conservative, by the way. So like I try and be super conservative. So for those guys at home, like don't be surprised if we see it in months, you know. I think it was Randy Hilarski was talking about how Tron did, and Tron's crap, right? Like so how that did as a layer one, how that did in like the first, I think he said 48 hours or something like that. So you know what, he's got the momentum to do very, very well. I think also if you look at what's going on in the bear market and what's been happening particularly in the Twitter spaces, Richard's getting on bigger platforms way more than when Hex launched, way more than even when Hex did 10,000x, right? He's now at this stage where he's on the cusp of going viral, and we keep calling it pre-viral, but he could go super viral soon. Those shopping spree videos that everyone seems to hate on, you forget that the numbers are crazy, the views are crazy, the retweets from people who've got millions of followers is crazy. I'm seeing it on Instagram. I'm seeing it on like meme trade Instagram accounts using that footage, like they use with Andrew Tate, or like they use with other traders who are quite famous on YouTube. So if I'm seeing it on those platforms and they've got nothing to do with crypto, then this guy is pretty viral. And virality, the speed at which it affects the masses, it can be minutes, it can be seconds, you know, it can be days, it can go crazy quick. It's the power of getting famous and becoming famous, and it's got its positives and negatives, but I think for the PulseChain ecosystem and for Hex, it will have a very positive effect.
And we have heard that Richard Hart has said PulseChain can do, let's say, 14,000x, right? Because he just looks in the past, what did Bitcoin, what did Ethereum, what did Hex, and then he extrapolated that with PulseChain, because then there are so many uncertainties that you don't know. Right now, we don't have the product out yet because the developers are still working on that, right? We're just speculating on that point, but eventually it will come out. And I'm saying it's worth waiting. Why? Because it will be the cutting edge technology that other people will buy later in the future, because they understand, okay, this is what will do me 10,000x. So I'm waiting a little bit for both, obviously, right? For Richard Hart to have the hype, but also to have the hype in all over crypto. And now the question is, when can that start? When can the overall world economy start improving again? What needs to happen so we see the overall world conditions to improve again? I know you're a little bit more into this topic. That's why I want to wrap it up from this side.
So if you were to give advice to the US and also to other countries like my own, the UK, as to what they should be doing for the next 10-15 years, they should be raising interest rates, right? Realistically, if you want to get rid of debt, if you want to get rid of this broken financial system that we have, that's what you'd be doing. You'd be increasing the interest rates, and it would cause a massive depression within society in order to fix a broken system. But the system's broken, and it relies on the money printer, and it's a matter of time. Once the interest rate, the inflation rate reduces to a comfortable enough position for the Fed, then the money printers will go back on. And it is a broken system, unfortunately. And 11.1% inflation rate, the highest, I think, in history, or one of the highest in history in the UK. I mean, the system's broken. And once that money printer goes on, it filters down. It filters down into real estate. It filters down into into our stocks, it filters down into crypto. But crypto is the most volatile, so the movement is even more incredible. You also see that in other assets, right? Like if you look at how much they were printing during 2021, and then you look at the price of watches going up significantly, the price of trading cards, NFTs, ridiculous. Like NFTs were a massive bubble. There wasn't really much to it, but yeah, that money printer will come back on. It's just check the Fed. I think most people who are watching this stream right now should be looking at when the next Fed meetup is. I was really surprised. But then when I was seeing how the inflation rate was going, I wasn't too surprised. Was just before the midterms that they did a 75 basis point increase. So for those at home, it's a 0.75% interest rate increase by the Fed, just right before the midterms. Usually before an election or before a midterm, you do not increase the interest rate. But because inflation's been so out of control, they've been doing that. And I think they'll do it for the rest of the year. I think they will increase the interest rate until they feel more and more comfortable within the next year. That gives you a bit more of an opportunity, I think, in crypto. I think it gives you a bit more of an opportunity to get these prices at a lower discounted price, because once that money printer goes back on, it's going to filter down, and it's going to filter down heavily in crypto and other financial tools, as per se, and we'll see some good some price movement on the upside.
Well, because why I bring it up is when we see the world economy improving, right? Then we are speculating on the next bull market. PulseChain is not out yet. A lot of people are speculating that Richard Hart wants to time the market, right, and puts out PulseChain when the bull market starts, or maybe a little bit before, something like this. So I'm just saying, as time goes by, economy starts changing. Maybe we go into the bull market, and then just this puts time, like the pressure on the developers to put the PulseChain project out yet. And maybe the speculators are right. Maybe it is already done, and Richard Hart is truly just speculating on the price, which I don't believe. And then there's also something else, right, that is a little bit pushing, which is the documentary that is about to release. I mean, I think it's clear to say that something like this has never been published in such a big form, right? The documentary is going to be something huge that maybe millions of people are going to see. So that's also something that we have to keep in mind, why PulseChain will make you rich in the future, that we have this hype in the future because of Richard Hart, the founder. His outright marketing works perfect, in my opinion.
And 100%. But on that point as well, I mean, how much more interesting is this documentary going to be now that SBF and everything like that, now that the eyes are on crypto because of SBF and the FTX failure? Like, this is, if you launch this documentary on something like a Netflix, a Disney, what's the other one that's popular? Amazon Prime, something like that, in the next couple of months, whilst the pan's still hot, this has a great potential. This is really a key time to be launching that documentary, and I'm hoping the guys jump on that with the highest of stakes, because I really think that will be another documentary. From what I'm told, they're going to be making something on Netflix about it. The Russo brothers are meant to be directing it on the whole FTX situation, but even with the negativity, I mean, it would be amazing to have a documentary like the highest of stakes on out whilst the pan's still hot, whilst people are still talking about crypto, even if it's negatively.
So we talked about that PulseChain has a product market fit, right? It solves the problem. That's why people will buy it. We talked about that Richard Hart is awesome. People will buy it because he's such a great founder. People will buy it because of the documentary coming out. There are a lot of reasons why people will buy PulseChain in the future. But I think the number one reason is because number goes up. And I think that's always the number one reason why anybody is in crypto. They're all speculating. And we're talking about all those small people that want to participate in the future because their problems get to be solved now. They can even make smaller stakes. But the most important thing are the whales. And what Hex Lion always says is so true. It is easy to get rich on the back of whales. And now with PulseChain, I think this is the really number one reason which you have to understand why PulseChain will make you rich. It is now we have the big whales waiting to buy PulseChain. They probably even sacrificed already. And I know how big whales play it in the beginning of a coin, because I can look at one of the whales in the early beginning of Ethereum, the Genesis whale, right? We call him the God whale. He bought Hex in the early beginnings and is buying Hex still today. And I think this is exactly what will happen with PulseChain. Whales will start accumulating PulseChain in the early beginnings and will just keep on doing so. And we already have the proof of BitBoy. BitBoy Crypto, for example, talking about more and more about Richard, and I think this is the signal that he is invested in PulseChain. What do you think? What do you think about all those new influencers that now start talking positive about Richard and are excited for PulseChain?
Yeah, I love it, man. I really do love it. I think he's getting the recognition he deserves, and I still feel that he needs more recognition, right? I really like the fact that it's the hashtags on Twitter that he's trending. Richard Hart was right, particularly with everything that's been going on with Celsius, BlockFi, FTX, etc. But in terms of big whales and big influencers coming into the space, it's exciting, man. I really am excited to see it. I really like the fact that BitBoy's now embraced it. I think he's getting more aligned to it. I know a lot of people don't like BitBoy. Fair enough. That's on you. But it is good press. And now we're also seeing it with the Twitter spaces as well, with David Gockenstein, I believe, and Mario as well, who's been hosting Richard many times. And I was talking on a previous stream, and I found out that Elon Musk was in one of the Twitter spaces with Mario. So Mario has a lot of influence as well in that regard. So it's interesting to see. It's really good to see. And I still convinced that Eric Wall is the Genesis whale. So Eric, reveal yourself, my friend. We know the shtick is up. We know that you are the God whale. So let's not pretend, my friend. You are the God whale. So
you really think that he is the real God whale? You can find him on Twitter here, I believe, right? That's So there he is, and here you see that he is following me. He follows HEX. The real God is a fan of Hex, and he is a fan of HEX as well. I'm surprised because I'm the biggest fan of this guy. Because I'm an early Hex investor, right? I try to say that at every single stream. And this single guy here, the real God whale, he pumped the Hex price a couple of months after Hex came out, and he basically moved me out of poverty into a new life. And I'm so grateful for the real God whale to have done that, to found Hex, found Richard Hart, and to decide that this is the crypto that he wants to stake in for 15 years, because that's what he has done, right? He bought Hex, right? He lifted me up of poverty. I love that phrase. And then he staked it for 15 years as well. I think this shows 100% commitment. I'm really grateful for that, to have such a great follower. So thank you, the real God whale. Hopefully you see that in the future.
Yeah, right, and real God whale, if you're seeing this, like I've DM'd you a couple of times. Be nice for a response. I'm not going to get beggy, but
Yeah, I think the real God whale needs to make an interview and tell the people about Hex and about the big opportunity that there is about to come with PulseChain, right? Because the real God whale will also have his Hex doubled on the PulseChain. So and now he will be coming over to this new ecosystem.
Yeah, 100%. I see Franklin in chat as well. Mario's not the biggest fan of Richard Hart, but he likes that he gets him a lot of listeners in Twitter spaces. That's cool, man, but it's exposure. That's the good thing about it. And shout out to Franklin as well. Just a heads up, there's a guy Luke Belmar has been talking a lot of crap about Hex and Richard Hart in general. And Franklin's been one of the chief guys who's been pushing back on him. So shout out to you, Franklin.
Nice. Money and Crypto, we always have new people in our chat as well. So everything is energy is saying, what is PulseChain? So what would you say is your elevator pitch to explain what is PulseChain?
Probably one of the fastest layer 1 networks that you'll find. It's going to have a massive free airdrop. Every single Ethereum ERC20, which is an Ethereum-based token that's been made on the Ethereum network, will be copied across, and you'll have a copy of a new version of it on PulseChain as well that you can that you get for free. Elevator pitch, I think it's going to be one of the best layer 1s. It's going to be up there with Ethereum, maybe even take most of the Ethereum users if they embrace it, but it's definitely an alternative, a fantastic alternative layer 1. PulseX is the DEX, the place where you can exchange from token to token. Both are deflationary. PulseChain itself has a burn function, so a portion of every transaction burns away out of existence. It's deflationary from day one, and has a limited supply, although the supply is quite high, but it will go down and down and down. And then PulseX has a buy and burn function, which is fantastic, where it literally buys up the price. It's a perpetual buyer that buys up the price and burns away out of existence the supply. So I would get some at some point.
And because of all of those reasons that you just said, it was a perfect elevator pitch. PulseChain will go to the moon and will make all of us rich. No financial advice, obviously. We are just sharing our experience in the crypto market. I'm trying to share my life experience, what I have done with Hex and will do in the future with PulseChain. And Hex has done 10,000x in the first 2 years because Richard designed it to do it like this. And PulseChain is designed to appreciate in value as well. Right now, what we are seeing with PulseChain coming out in the future is that the philosophy of crypto will change once again. We are going from an inflationary system to totally deflationary, right? Ethereum is trying to do that right now, but it needed something like Zen, for example, to actually be deflationary. Crazy times. And PulseChain will be deflationary from the first day. From the first day, people will transact, and this financial energy will result in the burning power of PulseChain. So you basically don't have to do anything, and just the holistic product by itself will appreciate in price. And I think this is exactly the reason why you will get rich in the future. MoneyGang Crypto, is there something of the last words that you may want to reach out to the HexKSB TV viewers?
Yeah, man, I want to appreciate all the work that you do, man. I really do appreciate the friendship as well online. I really do appreciate everything that you do for the community and the tours, everything like that. Keeping positive as well. I'm excited, man. I mean, I know that people are getting irritated with the delays, but in a bear market, people get irritated in general, right? Like when the bear market's down and most of the market's down, it's going to be like that. Just understand that your money was protected during this bear market, right? You bought in at a much higher price than what it would be worth today for most cryptocurrencies. And now we have so much more. Now we have copies of Hedron that is going to be coming across, copies of Icosa that's going to be coming across. So many interesting projects. So do yourself a favor and go out and research different projects, learn. And if you want to contribute, go learn some code, learn stuff that's going to be applicable for the future as well. Future-proof yourself for what's going to happen, because blockchain technology is going to be around for a long period of time, and we need good DeFi. We need real DeFi. We need to be encouraging this as a community and stay close together as a community, guys. There's some fantastically interesting individuals within this community that are great educators in the space. So go follow them, like and subscribe to this channel as well, guys, whilst you're at it.
And MoneyGang, where can the people find you?
Yeah, and by the way, I'm going to keep doing this shtick of Eric Wall is the God well, so I'm just going to irritate him to the point where he tells us that he's the God well. But you can find me at MoneyGang Crypto on YouTube as well. On Twitter, same tag, MoneyGang Crypto, and we do have a Telegram group chat. That's t.me/MoneyGang Cult Chat, like a cult. And yeah, it pretty much, if you want to have a chat conversation, feel free. But follow this guy as well, and follow KSB TV. They're fantastic guys, man.
Thank you very much. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a content creator in the Hex and PulseChain ecosystem. And this is exactly the reason why I think PulseChain will go to the moon. We are talking about it constantly. We are not stopping with our efforts to promote that. Why? Because we want to bring people on board and help them to find financial freedom as well, right? It's changed my life. It can do the same for you. And that's why I want to not advertise, but promote that everybody should go on social media, on Twitter, and then you will find people talking about like the wealth transfer in the future, and you should be part of it. Thanks for everybody being here in the chat. I have seen 50 people being live, so the numbers are growing crazy on KSP TV. Thanks for everybody being here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And Money Getting Crypto, we will meet in a second in the green room. I will just now show the trailer again, because this is something that I'm really, really excited on. Next week, Hex will be 3 years, and we are celebrating 10,000x, 100% uptime, flawless operation, and 95% dips. So let me show this video here, and then we see you guys in the next couple of days when we are back on KSB TV. Bye.